Engine failures in today's general aviation airplanes are extremely unlikely. Chances are you will never have to perform an emergency approach and landing, but you should always be prepared for an unexpected emergency. Let's take a look at how you can do this. The Emergency Procedures section in the Pilot's Operating Handbook is your official source of information on how to handle an emergency. You need to review the emergency procedures in the POH often enough to ensure that they come to mind quickly. For an extra margin of safety, you should always practice emergency approach and landing procedures with an instructor. Remember that emergency approach and landing procedures may vary slightly between different airplanes, so you should consult the POH for the airplane you fly. Now, let's take a look at some general emergency approach and landing procedures. The first thing to do, if you sense a loss of engine power, is establish the best glide speed. This speed can be found in the POH. If you fly at the best glide speed, you will minimize altitude loss, giving you more time to deal with the emergency. Flying at any speed faster or slower than best glide will result in a greater rate of descent. To help maintain the best glide speed, use the trim to relieve control pressures. The next step is to locate a suitable landing spot. If an airport is not located close by, look for an open pasture, sod farm, or hard-packed dirt field. Some roads make good landing spots. However, be aware of hazards such as cars and power lines. Avoid fields that are plowed or have ditches and other obstructions. You should also take the wind direction and speed into consideration when choosing a landing spot. A shorter field with a strong headwind may be a better choice than a longer field that has a crosswind or tailwind. After you have selected a good landing spot, go ahead and make a turn toward it. Make sure the spot you've selected is close enough to glide to comfortably. It's better to circle over your selected site if you need to lose altitude. This will also aid you in picking out any obstacles such as potholes, power lines, or ditches. If you have time while gliding down to your landing spot, you should attempt to figure out what's wrong with the engine. In case ice has formed in the carburetor, pull the carburetor heat to the on position. Verify that the fuel selector is in the both position. Adjust the mixture. Make sure the ignition switch is in the both position and check the primer to verify it is in and locked. If the engine doesn't start, continue with your emergency approach. If you have time after an attempted restart, try to notify someone of your emergency. Set your transponder to 7700. If you are in contact with ATC, call on the currently assigned frequency and advise them of your situation. If not in contact with ATC, make a radio call on 121.5.
Mayday, 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 52241, Cessna 172, engine failure. Forced landing 5 miles southeast of Kiowa, one on board.
If possible, try to set up your emergency approach just like a normal approach with downwind, base, and final legs. Your downwind position should be about 180 degrees from where you want to touch down. Once you are assured of making your selected landing site, begin to secure the airplane to reduce the risk of fire. Cut the fuel to the engine by bringing the mixture to idle cutoff. Turn the fuel selector to the off position. Then turn the ignition switch off. Lower the flaps as required. And then turn the master switch off. Unlatch the doors prior to touchdown to make it easier to exit the airplane if it is damaged during the landing. In a real emergency, be prepared to touch down on a surface that is much rougher than what you're used to. Hold back pressure on the yoke to lower the nose wheel slowly. This will reduce the chance of the airplane flipping over if the surface is soft. Apply the brakes as needed. On a short field, you may need to apply the brakes heavily. Practice emergency approaches will typically end by going around once you are assured of making the selected landing spot. Try and make your practice approaches as realistic as possible. Look for a spot that you could really land on and concentrate on making a good approach. Being prepared is the best line of defense in an emergency situation. An emergency approach and landing is a skill you may never have to use, but it sure pays to know how to do it well.